Good evening and welcome to Wednesday night Satsang, the practice of principle and unity. And so we're so grateful that you're with us this evening. And so let us begin by sanctifying and strengthening the space between us, among us, and from us in this sanctuary by taking a deep breath in and relaxing, letting go, and allow each breath now that follows to be even and gentle and full. Allow it to move, relaxing your shoulders and neck, your body, and just allow yourself to know that you have arrived. You are here. You are in your seat, in your place, near and far. And in this, we know that we bring the spirit, the life, the beauty with us. Grace connects us. Love draws us together. Our oneness allows us to communicate, to share, and to lift one another. And so in this time of remembrance, we allow ourselves first to let go of what we no longer need and open to what is next for us. And so in this space, we feel blessed. In the distance, among all of those who are watching now and will be watching in the future, already your spirit is with us. You are blessed. You are already one. Always have been. We know it, and so it is. Amen.
Our practice tonight is a practice of deep self-acceptance. And so as we sing our first chant this evening, let us let go of any criticism that we've received from others or given to ourselves and remember the truth together. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could feel our connection with each other now in this space, as we join in our mantra chant, Om Mani Padme Hum. This is an ancient chant of liberation. Praise the jewel in the lotus, our own unfolding of all that we are. Let's sing together. Let's close our eyes now as we enter into our sacred time of meditation practice. Checking in with your seated posture. Your feet are grounded, feeling your energy flowing through your body and connecting through the soles of your feet all the way down into the center of the earth, connecting you with all life. Feeling a lift in your spine as you feel energy flowing through your body and up through the crown of the head, connecting you to that which is beyond your physical being. Feeling your arms hanging off of your shoulders. Your hands on your thighs, either face down or face up in a receptive position. Bring your attention to the anchor of the breath. Noticing the rise and fall of the belly as you breathe. with each breath, seeing if you can relax even more in your breathing, allowing the belly to release. Noticing where you're feeling sensations of breath at the edges of your nostrils, the rise and fall of your chest, expansion and contraction of the rib cage. Being present with the breath. Accepting your breath in this moment just as it is. Not trying to change it, make it wrong or different. Simply noticing each breath as it moves in the body. Recognizing each breath is a unique experience. As you bring your attention to it, you can realize different nuances of the breath. The pause at the end of the inhale. Pause at the end of the exhale. As you feel yourself fully present with your breath, just as it is now. Just notice the experience of breath in your entire body. Notice the body sitting. There is a body. Feeling sensations of air on your skin. Noticing, hearing any sounds as they arise. Making it all welcome. Simply noticing. Being present to any hindrances in your practice this evening. You're feeling any restlessness, sleepiness, any desires to scratch an itch. Noticing that and remaining in your seated posture. Just getting curious, what's present? Noticing if there's any aversion as you sit, any resistance to being present, to doing the practice, to sitting. And if so, where do you feel it in the body? any sensations associated with that experience. Noticing if any craving is showing up in your practice. You're desiring to eat, to sleep, for something in your life to be different. Simply noticing what's present now and how you're feeling it in your body. If anger is present, noticing that. Sadness or grief or joy, peace. Pain or discomfort. Where are you feeling that in your body? What sensations are brought to the center of your attention? Breathe and notice. Notice the quality of the sensation. If it feels like tightness or a fluttering. Or noticing your heart beating. Knot in your stomach. Perhaps you're noticing that you've got pleasant sensations that are arising. Notice those too. And as you bring attention to your inner experience, notice how it changes. Simply by bringing your attention to it and not taking any action or changing anything. Deeply accepting all experience as it arises and as it dissipates. If your mind gets lost in thought, returning to the anchor of the breath. Feeling awe for the rich inner life that you have, for your ability to feel and experience, to be, to notice the wonder of all that you are. So we'll close our time in meditation by beginning to bring some movement to the body as feels right to you. You can wiggle your fingers and toes, rotate your shoulders gently.
Easily circle the head to release any tension in the neck. Open your eyes just a bit to begin to bring in the light, having a soft focus and just noticing what is right before you in this moment. Just taking in the space a little more fully, bringing your full presence to the here and now. And so it is.
And now as you gently return to this time and place, just take another cleansing breath, just one more, to really allow you to re-enter your body consciously and ground yourself. Feel the floor beneath your feet, wherever you are. And so this is the time in our service that we share from our love and from our experience of having received all of the gifts that we feel that we are blessed with in our lives. Kind of a wave of gratitude arises in us, and from that place and out of that gratitude comes its core value, the core feeling, the core power of gratitude is love. And so we breathe into our hearts. And as we prepare our gifts to share with this ministry by any method we plan to give, whether it's text to give on the screens or on our website, or whether it's here in the room in physical form, however we do and as we prepare, please breathe into your heart and allow the love to flow. Allow it to fill the energy patterns of the gift you're sharing, knowing that it blesses as it goes far through our ministry and out into the world. And so together we'll speak our prayer of blessing in acknowledgement that we are sending it out together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. And so it is. Amen.
Doctors have come from distant cities just to see me stand over my bed, disbelieving what they're seeing. They say I must be one of the wonders of God's own creation. And as far as they see, they can offer no explanation. Newspapers ask intimate questions, want confessions, reach into my head to steal the glory of my story. They say I must be one of the wonders of God's own creation. And as far as they see, they can offer no explanation. Ooh, I believe fate smiled at destiny, laughed as she came to my cradle. No, this child will be able, laughed as my body she lifted. No, this child will be gifted with love, with patience, and with faith. She'll make her way. People your balance. I'm over your heads, how I confound you and astound you to know I must be one of the wonders of God's own creation. And as far as they see, they can offer me no explanation. Ooh, I believe fate smiled and destiny laughed as she came to my cradle. No, this child will be able. Laughed as she came to my mother. No, this child will not suffer. Laughed as my body she lifted. No, this child will be gifted with love, with patience, and with faith. She'll make a way. She'll make a way. She'll make a way. Ooh. Ooh.
Is that a song about self-love or what? I think about what Natalie Merchant was thinking of, and she wrote that song. This is like just a wonderful testament to how beautiful and amazing we all are when we recognize that we're God's creations. There's something so amazing to be recognized in each one of us. And so we come together tonight to look at this spiritual practice of deep self-acceptance. I'm so happy that we're doing this series. Reverend Karen kicked us off so beautifully last week. Robert Brummett's book, Living Originally, 10 Spiritual Practices to Transform Your Life. So we started out with radical self-acceptance. We're moving into deep radical self-awareness was last week, and this is deep self-acceptance. So I want to share with you a quote that came into my life today because I got honest tea. And I think that when you get honest tea, they should tell you something honest on it. So on the cap, this is the quote that I got today. It said, "Truth is so rare that it's delightful to tell it." And that's Emily Dickinson. Truth is so rare that it is delightful to tell it. So how often do you tell yourself the truth about yourself? Is it rarely? What are you telling yourself about yourself? We can get so caught up in the story, right? The story around our life, how it got this way, this opportunity, that relationship, right? We can get caught up in such a story that we can lose a sense of the very truth of ourselves that we can be in awe and wonder about. I had an experience just today that was a practice in deep self-acceptance. I noticed my dog was doing kind of her usual thing. She's a little Pomeranian mix, and she comes up to me like this, and so it's either food or a walk or something. And I went into her food container. I looked in, completely empty. And I hadn't talked to my husband about this. And so I looked. I didn't have any food for her. And then, so the thoughts started to go. I wonder how long she's been out of food. She's looking a little skinnier today. Is she a little skinnier? Is she starving? Why didn't my husband tell me? There was things like this, right? Crazy stuff, right? That the mind immediately is trying to figure out some kind of explanation for this. So I texted him. I said, "Duchess has no food." Big eyes, emoji. And he texted me back and he said, "Don't let her fool you. She ate this morning and I'm going to pick up food on the way home." And I was like, phew, okay, my dog hasn't been starving. He's thought about this. And then I just got to notice okay, well, what was the truth of that moment? The truth was she had no food in her container, and that I was concerned, and that my concern came out of my love for her, right? I love my dog, and then I can honor myself that I was worried for her well-being, and that it was being resolved. And that's it. So we can notice what shows up, kind of reactions that arise out of the subconscious mind when something occurs. Be with it and choose to respond rather than react. I could think of some other things I might have texted my husband about that, like, okay, just like, hey, she's out of food. It's easy peasy. Find out what happened. Just be with the present and recognize the truth as our emotions show up and different things arise. This term self-acceptance is being used in a different way in Living Originally as Robert Brummett presents it. Commonly we use this term of self-acceptance as being that we're accepting our self-image, the way that we see ourselves, the way we think others see us, the role that we play, how we think we measure up to other people in our lives and society. That kind of idea of an ideal self or even a good enough self. That's usually what we think of when we talk about self-image. But where do these standards come from, these standards that we measure ourselves up against? Well, they come from our family of origin and the different conditions that they consider to be good enough or okay, or you've made it, you've not made it, that kind of thing. They come from our culture. We've inherited them from our culture. That at my age, I should have house, a number of children, be married, or have degrees, certain amount of money, whatever it is, that story of, at this point in my life, I should, and that's those standards that we've inherited. I know that I've done that sometimes where I've thought, oh, at my age, well, my parents were able to do this for me, so I should be able to do this for my daughter. And I'm like, oh, I picked that up. That's something that I just absorbed and created as, okay, that's the norm. And is that really a standard that I need to hold to myself? And is that fair or reasonable or necessary even? When we begin to explore and question and notice, then we're not just working through that conditioning unconsciously and acting it out and beating up on ourselves, right? So when we no longer meet these standards we've set for ourselves, our self-acceptance can tend to go out the window, right? But there's a healthier way to be, and that's what we're looking at tonight in our deep self-acceptance practice. Think of the story of Jesus when he was asleep in the hull of the boat with the disciples. And they were out on the water, and there was this big storm, and he was just resting, and they were panicked. They were so panicked. Do you remember this story? They're out there on the boat, and they're panicking, and they're worried that they would drown, and they wake him up. Come on, Lord, what are you doing? You're just sleeping? We're going to die. And so he just gets up peacefully. He commands the winds. He rebukes the wind, is what Scripture says, and says, peace, be still. Peace be still, and the winds die down, the storm calms, and they didn't die, they didn't drown, everybody was okay. Well, not only was Jesus in the experience, he was in the experience. He wasn't denying the experience. He wasn't like, I'm not in the storm, we're not in the boat, we're all okay. No, he knew. He accepted what was present. He demonstrated his awareness of it. And so that practice of deep self-acceptance, that is that really being present to what is here now and then acting rather than reacting from a place of awareness, right? It has nothing to do with self-image or comparing yourself to others or to a standard. Robert Brummett says this, deep self-acceptance is simply the unconditional acceptance of my present moment experience, whatever that experience may be, just deeply accepting it. There's that joke, I don't know if I get it right, but that the unity person who goes to hell that says, like, it's not hot and I'm not here. Just affirming them, trying to affirm themselves out of it. That's not what this is. Not trying to affirm yourself out of a situation. It's really accepting. Okay, it's hot and I'm here. And so what are my options? What can I do now? How can I respond to this? Do I stay or what have you? Right? So what is the self that you're accepting if it's not your self-image? So if it's not your self-image, it is the sense of self that you're experiencing in the moment. And that can change. That can change that sense of self from moment to moment. So it's not an image, but a felt experience of yourself in that moment. This practice of living originally is a practice of returning to the origin, living originally, returning to the origin. It's a shift from identifying with the content of your experience and shifting to identifying with the context of your experience. So that yourself is not only your stream of experience, but it is also that which is aware of your experience. The context that is aware, that recognizes, oh, I'm feeling sad. Well, who's noticing that you're feeling sad or happy or angry? Shifting into what in Buddhism is called witness consciousness and living from that space of awareness. If you're worried about your dog, like I was, who's the one who's worried? Who knows that you're worried? Who's witnessing the worry? Recognizing that the worry or whatever the feeling, the experience is will change. It will undoubtedly change because we live in the relative realm, which is always changing, right? But being aware, being from that part of you that is aware of the worry, that part of you that's aware, that does not change. That is your unchangeable nature. I love this quote from Pema Chodron. You are the sky, everything else is just the weather. Everything else is just the weather. So can you just be the sky and notice the rain, notice the sun, notice the day, the night, being present and fully immersed in it, and yet being the sky, recognizing it changes, right? There's also the campfire metaphor, that if you have a campfire, you don't attempt to extinguish the fire, but you don't add any more logs, don't add any more wood, just let the fire burn until it burns out. That's that experience of being fully present to your inner life, right? Allowing that experience to move through you till you feel that you're in a real conscious state to take positive, life-affirming action there. So we begin this practice by setting the intention of deep self-acceptance. Setting the intention, I am going to live and practice deep self-acceptance. And returning to that intention often, remembering that that's the intention that you're living by. And Robert Brummett recommends that we take each of these beginning core practices and practice them for 30 days. So we want to know that this is not something you do tonight and then I did it. What's next Wednesday's topic? So we want to stay with it for at least 30 days to allow it to really work in our experience and we can really gain the fruits from it. So noticing that sometimes you may react to situations in your life, you may resist, you may judge, you may interpret your experience in spite of this intention of deep self-acceptance. And that's not a problem. That is happening. What your work is just to simply notice whatever arises automatically. Whatever your response is, worried about the dog, whatever it is. So that's that radical self-awareness that Reverend Karen talked about last week. Noticing whatever arises and adding nothing to it, just noticing it. If you threw a log on the fire, don't throw any more. As soon as you're aware of it, stop adding fuel to the flame. Return to the present moment. Notice your thoughts, your feelings, your sensations that are present, and breathe and sense the body. The body is always in the present moment. The mind goes in the past, goes into the future. The body is always in the present, so that's a great way to ground yourself and center. Now, acceptance of your inner experience does not mean acting it out in a harmful manner. So you may feel this feeling like you want to hurt someone or hurt yourself. That's not acting ethically and responsibly. Part of these teachings is that we accept the sensations, the thoughts, the emotions as they arise, and you allow them to arise internally, and externally you act ethically and responsibly to the best of your ability. So it can be helpful that you support this practice with some other practice. If you're engaged in a harmful or compulsive behavior, it may be helpful to join a 12-step group. It may be helpful to engage in psychotherapy to support shifting your behavior to be ethical and responsible. If you do act or speak irresponsibly, then acknowledging this and making amends for anything that you may have done that harmed another. There is the wisdom within each one of us to respond perfectly to each moment. There is that wisdom within us to not react automatically from embedded emotions, memories, experiences in the subconscious mind to be coming from the superconscious mind, or what we call in Unity Christ consciousness, what in Buddhism is called Buddha mind or Buddha consciousness, to receive or be aware of that wisdom. So a reaction is just that automatic response, which is based on conditioning from some internal or external stimulus. And internal reactions arise very quickly. You'll notice they just show up quickly. Oh, I'm worried. Oh, I'm scared. I'm angry. I'm in this musical. I'm having some fun being in a musical right now called Urinetown. And the character that I'm playing, Miss Pennywise, she's very reactive. I had to get used to being in the body of this person, figuratively, as I play this character, because she just goes off on everything. She gets angry at everybody who gets in her face. And so that was a way to just kind of really embody that reactivity, like, okay, I feel what that feels like to live like that. And how many times do we find ourselves when we're stressed, when we're worked up? This character's in a very tense situation to be like this, that when we're tensed, when we're stressed, when we haven't cared for ourselves enough, we can be very reactive and short with people and that kind of thing. So just noticing that that can show up quickly. And with awareness, you can choose to respond rather than react, to speak and act consciously, intentionally, and to choose your words and actions. I want to share with you this wonderful transformational story of deep self-acceptance, and it's from Rachel Naomi Riemann, and every time that I think of her, I think of Reverend Karen, because I think they're soul sisters for sure. So this story is about her when she was a teenager. She was 15, and she was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and if you're at all familiar with that, it's a really painful intestinal disease. And she reacted to this illness, and this is spoken about in the Living Originally chapter. She reacted to her illness and the suffering and limitation that came about from this illness with a very deep resentment. She was 15. So she needed to consult with her disease before she did even the simplest of things. Could she eat this piece of cheese? Could she walk up this flight of stairs? And she hated her body. She hated this experience of her life. She wanted her old body back. She didn't want to be in pain anymore. And as a young adult, one day she was walking on the beach, and she found herself comparing her life to her friends and her colleagues, and recognizing that those of a similar age to her seemed to have boundless energy, vitality, perfect health, And she recognized that in her was a seething resentment, this deep resentment, and it erupted in this explosive rage. And she just allowed herself to feel this rage fully for the very first time, the fullness of it. And she screamed out there on the beach, and she felt this rage, and it was pulsing through her body. And through that experience of releasing this energy that she had pushed down into her shadow, she had pushed it down deep within her, letting it out, she also unleashed the power within her. And she experienced a profound insight that this rage was her will to live. It was her will to live showing up. It was her love of life expressing itself. And she saw that at the core of her being, she had an intense love of life. She had touched something deep within herself by allowing that anger, that rage to be expressed, and to deeply accepting that rage as part of her love for herself and her love of life and her desire to live. And it had been simmering within her, and this rage transformed into vitality. And for the first time in her adult life, she found that she was no longer a victim of her disease. She found a new life. And Rachel went on to become a medical doctor and an author who has transformed the lives of many people. Many people. And so we can recognize that when we resist what is up and alive and present in the moment, it can create a block. It can create resistance to our own vitality, our own love of life, our own creative expression. And it blocks our access to our superconscious mind, our Christ mind, Buddha mind. The subconscious is that which lies between the superconscious mind and the conscious mind, that of which we are aware as the subconscious, the storehouse of our memories, desires, emotions. And when we experience resistance, it freezes that. It freezes those memories, those desires, those emotions in the subconscious, and it blocks the light, the truth, the wisdom from coming through when we're in that state of resistance. It blocks that from coming through into our conscious mind, where we can be aware of our experience. And so when we practice deep self-acceptance, it melts that resistance. It's powerful. It melts that resistance so that the contents of the subconscious becomes open to the flow of the superconscious into the conscious, so that it can be explored, integrated, and release these emotions and memories and things that have shown up that can tend to react to. When we let go of resistance, then we are open to that guidance, that wisdom that is always present. So the moment that you see and accept your resistance, that's a giant step toward dissolving it. Ken Wilber put it this way. He talked about unity consciousness, that superconscious mind. He said this: until you see precisely how you resist unity consciousness, all your efforts to achieve it will be in vain. Because what we are trying to achieve is also what we are unconsciously resisting and trying to prevent. And that understanding itself might allow a glimpse of unity consciousness, for that which sees resistance is itself free of resistance. That which sees resistance is itself free of resistance. Don't we want to experience that freedom from resistance? So it's a simple practice, deep practice, and deeply transformative. Remembering that no experience is outside of your practice. So not just when you're sitting on the cushion or on your chair to meditate. All experience of life is part of the practice, so that deep self-acceptance leads you into having a clear mind, an open heart, learning not to act from craving, act from aversion, but just to notice them as they arise, being with them, noticing them with a compassionate heart, loving kindness, allowing yourself to accept your experience. And in doing so, not only do you live with greater compassion for yourself, that it teaches you how to see it and experience greater compassion for others as they are experiencing it as well. Namaste.
Thank you, Reverend Jeanmarie. That was a great and a very accessible and very simple way of looking at simply allowing ourselves to be how we are, whatever how, whatever's going on, however we are being in the moment. That was, a bit of a revelation about, Rachel Naomi Reeman's experience of being on the beach. And I was comparing her reaction to her rage and to her anger. And I have many times in my life processed it, and usually with therapists or since then, a practice of just knowing I always think of it, I just need to release it. I need to vent it in a safe way. I need to get rid of this energy. It's all, in there and it's messing me up. So I just need to, I always think I'm just like letting the pressure valve off and just like blowing it out. And I never really thought about the activity of the meaning of it in that really powerful way, that awareness that she had of how this was not a bad thing, not a wrong thing, she needs to, or an unhealthy reaction, or she shouldn't feel this way. Instead of all of that I could easily, and I know have done with my anger, instead see it as an authentic, arousal and arising of a power that needs to be integrated, that needs to be accepted in some kind of a way, not angry and, with all the energy on it, but the power of it. And anger is it is our power, and it's so essential and to our growth and to our maturity that it bears witness, So anyway, that's what I was reminded of as you were describing that, and how wise was she even at 15,
Yeah, and that experience of, I was just thinking about my own experience too with recognizing resistance, that I'm nooming. Noom? Anybody do noom? Anybody ever been on noom? So one of the things, it's psychology-based, it's weight loss, it's psychology-based, and you go through this program. One thing that they have you working with is craving, and so before I did Noom, if I wanted to eat chocolate, usually I went and found some chocolate or something and ate it, but they're encouraging me to just sit with the feeling and let it pass and see how quickly it passes. And so that's different for me, and but I really want the chocolate. And just sitting with it and noticing that it does change. Wait a minute. I could have just sat with it a little bit let it shift.
But I'm going to go get it anyway, right?
Well, if it's still there after a while, I might need to go get it. But there have been times where I've been able to let it go. So I'm improving in that. Just not just eating whatever I want, whenever I want, It's just interesting to observe that it feels like a strong feeling, and then, it's gone. Interesting.
Well, like so many of the things we discuss here, it's a practice.
Yes.
I think there'll be a temptation occasionally. It's like, okay, if I can just accept this, then I can get on with my life. I know I can have agency here, and so I have noticed at various times in my life, okay, I need to accept this in order to get onto whatever it is that I want to get onto, when in fact, acceptance is the end game. And it needs to be. It needs to be, I need to just accept it as it is and as it is not, and be wholly present to that, and when I am, then I truly do have some power. And, I was reminded as you were speaking about how God expresses through us, that if we're not accepting, if we really are resisting, then the universe is happening to us. We are true blue victims of our own circumstance. And then we kind of back up a little bit, and then we realize, well, I did have something to do with that, so I can accept that a little bit, and then so the universe is happening by my circumstances, happening by me. And then as I live into it a little bit more, then God is expressing through me. Perhaps there will be even little moments of time when God is expressed as me. But that first step, it begins and ends with acceptance, as it is and as it is not. And I think also sometimes that we don't know that we need that. It's like that chocolate craving or rage or whatever. It's like we're in the midst of it before we realize, wow, I am not accepting this core thing about my life. It kind of like grabs you by the face and you're stuck with it. But in those moments of awareness, this is where the practice comes in. It's like, okay, now wait a minute, I can take a breath here. And then the serenity prayer kicks in. God, grant me the acceptance to, the serenity to accept what cannot be changed, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I am astonished at the number of times when that simple prayer has been enough.
Yeah. Well, I resonate with that. It's not like we just turn on a floodlight and we're just fully expressing superconscious mind. It's like my metaphysics teacher, Paul Hasselbeck, he used these two colanders, and he had this big flashlight, and he shone them through, and he said, well, this is subconscious and this is conscious, and the light is coming filtered through your filters, through your stuff, and that when we meditate, we're creating some more space there for more of that light to shine through. That there's still that ego structure there that is present, right? And so the more we do the practice, the intention is to create more space for that light to shine through.
I think all of this, the work that we're talking about on Wednesday nights, the books that we've been covering with Jack Kornfields and Tara Brach and now Robert Brummets. I think I skipped one, Pema Chodron, I think we've also used. But really, it is the Buddhist practice, in particular, of that self-awareness, of just recognizing what is actually going on in me. Not what am I thinking, because that, I'm already, I'm swinging from one branch to another up there in my head, But if I can just stop paying attention to what I'm thinking and instead drop down into my heart. This week, I actually found myself wanting to see what else was going on, like what else is going on in here? Is this really, like when you're trying to discern, is this okay? Is it this? Is it, like diagnose yourself or figure out what is really going on with me or whatever. And I had the insight for just a second, instead of trying to figure out what these emotions are arising from, instead I just let them be, and I just went to my heart to find out was my heart open or was it constricted? Just one simple thing. Is it closed or is it open? And I found my heart being very neutral. I found it just being very neutral. And I believe really with all my heart that this part of me is the part that knows the truth. That all these other things might give me some information, but they are in and of themselves not the truth, or certainly not the whole truth. But here lies the truth, without unvarnished. And I thought, that what I understood then was that everything is really okay. So I gave up trying to figure out what all this falderall is. It's there, it's mine, it's my reaction, but it doesn't have to be actualized. I don't have to do anything with it. I don't have to understand it. I don't have to figure it out. I don't have to pet it. I don't have to change it. I don't have to fix it. I can just sort of let it just play itself out and just watch my heart. And I thought, where has that been all my life? You know, I mean, it's like I do this for a living, and I didn't even, I teach that, and there's times when I've been aware of it, but I haven't actually used it in a real-time scenario. So it feels like this awareness, this thing that you were just describing of becoming aware, just takes us to new levels of peace and the ability for us to simply be present to the living part of our lives, And I find that a revelation, at the same time a simplicity, a real simple thing, So I wanted to report that, that these things that we're working with, these tools arise of their own if we practice them even a little bit,
Definitely. They become part of who we are, and just natural.
I think it's in the air, because I think that, Reverend Michael spoke about it on Sunday, and it's active in the spirit groups. We're talking about what our heart's desires are. And it's been a little confronting, to claim that. So acceptance for our failures or our flaws, in some ways, is a little easier than accepting something that is deeply valued, something that's wanted, and something that I believe is so fully mine. And I wouldn't say out of reach, but requires a leap, to live into the possibility of my life as an act of deep acceptance. I'm confronted by that, and I take that as a good thing. That's part of the reason I enjoy these experiences, is that I get to kind of look in a deeper way at something taken for granted.
Yeah. There's a misunderstanding of Buddhism that some people think that in Buddhism teaches you can't want things, and actually it's okay to want. They said, yes, you can want. It's the attachment. It's where you suffer because you want something, you don't have it. Yes. It's the suffering that you need to work through, but the wanting is natural. That's, as human beings, is just that's keeps us creative,
Well, that's a corollary with the subject of acceptance too. Is that we think it doesn't have handles on it. It's not like you can pin it down and like, I got it. I think you referenced it. Okay, check. I have deeply accepted. Done. It's just not like that. It is a practice. It is a daily inquiry, because I think we're kind of thrown to attachment in various ways. There are more sophisticated ways of talking about it, but the essence of what you're saying is that there's sort of an expectation to navigate and form our self-assessment based on our very levels of attachments. And to live liberated of that's a discipline. Practice. Constant.
Sure.
Well, shall we pray? Yes. So I'll just invite you to just settle in this time of being fed and ruminating on the things that we'll carry with us and the things we'll take away. And it naturally leads us to thinking about re-entry into our lives and those that we care about and the conditions that we are navigating through in our lives. So this is a great opportunity for us, while we are holding a common mind right now, near and far, those spread out, watching now, participating, viewing this, and those who are, again, already with us. A great field of love exists among us. And so as we breathe into our bodies and breathe into our hearts, let us allow the names and the conditions that we wish to lift up and to release now into the field of love among us, that each condition we'd like to see changed is able to advance and progress and and evolve, and that the people that we care about and have concerns for may be protected and shielded, cared for, loved, that they may be healed and transformed as well, in accordance with their souls. And so in this awareness and in this moment, we trust and know that something greater than us has us, is working through us, embracing every moment. And so in the quiet, let us whisper the names and the conditions now into the field of love. We release our loved ones and the conditions. We release all those who suffer, all those who are in fear, all those who hunger, all those at risk, all those who are looking for answers in their lives, for all those who feel alone and left out, for all those who see no light, no hope. Let us open our hearts and receive them into the vastness of the great love, of the great oneness, of the great truth in which we are all lifted and embraced, brought together as one. As we heal one another. As we lift up and remember, others are awakened and remember. And so from this place, we know our prayers are not only answered, but we are delivered. And we are grateful. And we say thank you, thank you, thank you. And it is done, and so it is. Amen.
So let us join in speaking the words of our metta practice and closing with singing together our closing song and the ringing of our bowl. By the power of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they know the sacred joy that arises in the space beyond suffering. May they rest in equanimity that knows no grasping or hatred. May they experience the equality of all beings. May my practice be a benefit to all.
Namaste, namaste, I bow to you. Namaste, namaste, namaste. Go shine your light into the world. Namaste, namaste, the light in me sees the light in you. Namaste. Go shine your light into the world. Namaste. Namaste. Namaste.
Good night, everybody.